Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Software Architect, Microsoft Corporation, Bill Gates.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here today talking to so many developers about the next generation of applications. The success of computing, the success of our industry, the success of Microsoft, all of these things have been driven by new applications. And new applications come because we have powerful tools and platforms. The advances taking place in each of those areas is more rapid today than ever before. And so today we want to touch on the kinds of applications that are going to come out of this. Over the decades, there have been various things that have really limited what applications can do. In the 1980s, the memory size, the processor speed really made things tough. We were stuck with character mode interface. We couldn't do very big applications, and applications were pretty simple as a result of that. By the end of that decade, though, we started to get some powerful machines, and that's where graphics came in. In the next decade, we didn't have the machines connected together. And year after year, we'd say, well, is this the year of the network? Is this the year that it'll explode into critical mass? And certainly in the late 1990s with the technologies of the internet, that happened. Today we can think of bits flowing essentially between any intelligent device on the planet to any other intelligent device. And that's a phenomenal foundation that has us thinking about the kind of applications we can build. But there's still some very key limitations. When we think about software talking to other software, the protocols, the way that data is represented, it's only now, in this decade, that the XML schemas and the web services protocols that allow any piece of software to connect up in a rich way and exchange meaningful information, reliably, transacted, securely. Only now are those pieces coming into place. And it's very timely because a number of applications that have immense value, applications around e-commerce, workflow, these require that kind of foundation. And so there's investments across the industry in developing those standards and building the platforms that deliver on software connections. At the same time, of course, we have quite a variety of devices being connected up to the internet, all the way from the watch-type device, like the Spot Watch that I have here, smart cards, pocket-sized devices, phones, which are getting richer and richer, even things like digital cameras, GPS locators, all now being connected up. Then mobile personal computers, all the way up to the large servers that can run the most demanding applications. So we won't have many different networks. The TV network, the voice network, the data network, all of these things will be the same, and they'll be driven by rich applications. Even things like the set-top box and the video game, those platforms will come together, and your TV screen will be connected the same way that your PC is, providing a seamless experience there. But with all these different devices, that's a lot of complexity. And so if people have to create their own protocols, create their own runtimes, they won't have the time to focus on the application functionality. So the power of the platform, both the standards across different platforms and the power of the platform itself, has to step up to this new level. Now, before we focus on that, it is important to remember that Moore's Law type improvement is giving us headroom. Even though we've had powerful PCs for a long time, the increase in power is letting us be more and more ambitious. Moore's Law rate improvement exists not just in processor speed, but also in storage capacity. In fact, that goes even faster. The speed of optic fiber connections go up at sort of the same exponential rate. In the world of processors, we're at this nice milestone where we're moving up to a 64-bit address space. That's a substantial increase. Ought to last us quite some time. And for the first time, we can say that the servers, the industry standard servers, are not only the best in price performance, but they're the best in terms of absolute performance. And that's true across any type of benchmark. And so we're seeing the migration away from the lower volume, higher price servers onto the industry standard servers. And there's a lot of simplification that comes from that because the mainstream tools, the mainstream runtimes are available with the Windows platform on those servers. Things are being connected up wirelessly. This is, of course, an explosive area. Wi-Fi being something we'll have in all the mobile devices. The arrival of some other wireless technologies over the next few years, so-called ultra-wideband, for extremely high-speed connections that provide USB or 1394 type performance, but on a wireless basis. Over long distances, the arrival of WiMAX will give us easier broadband capability, being able to do that at low cost, and finally get that to be pervasive and something we can assume, even for people who are connecting up from home, not just people connecting up from business. The actual PC itself is becoming a phenomenal device. We have to think about the large screen size and the fact that people want to have lots of different information up there. The way we manage Windows, the way we do our interfaces, are being affected by the fact that large displays are getting very inexpensive there. Not only do we have clock speed increases, but we'll have multiple core devices. And so thinking through how we can take advantage of the thread parallelism that those cores essentially give us free execution speed there, that's a very, very important technique. The graphics processors are exploding in power, and that's partly why in the next major update of Windows Longhorn, we're doing a lot in the presentation system that fully exploits what's going on with those graphics processors. So a lot of hardware innovation, no slowdown in this at all. In fact, everything we can dream of in terms of hardware power, we are getting. A good illustration of that is that this watch I'm wearing has literally 10 times the power of the original IBM PC. We struggled mightily to get a BASIC interpreter and Fortran and COBOL running on that original PC. Well, here we have 10 times the RAM, 10 times the clock speed, and we can download these .NET applications. So whenever you come up with some new viewing idea, whether it's sports viewing or weather, financial, whatever is interesting, you simply use the wireless network and download those programs into this device. A real theme today is having a common set of development tools for all types of applications, making the same tools able to target the different devices and different classes of applications, and bringing those things together so that it's not like you have to pick different tools for different things. Now, I've said that we're connecting things together, connecting hardware and software in some pretty rich ways. And we've had some breakthroughs in that. In fact, they're kind of exciting enough. We've thought about putting together an advertisement that shows how really we're going to get all these things to connect together. So I'd like you to take a look at this ad and let me know if you think it's ready for prime time. That was exciting. So the theme is seamless computing, having the information available through these rich applications, connecting the hardware, connecting the software, and having powerful visualization. These are the broad themes that our record level R&D budgets are going after. In fact, R&D budget, as it's increased over the years, is actually now the largest of any technology company, substantially larger even than IBM, that's a traditional leader, and yet in our case it's all focused on software and focused on a uniform software environment. That's because of the opportunity we see to drive forward seamless computing, including the things we'll talk about today. The focus today is going to be on how mobility, web services, speech, and location type capabilities are going to come in and be aspects of applications. And yet that can be done using the same tools and languages that people are familiar with without saying, okay, you have to go off to a new world and give up some of the things you had before. In fact, as you move up to the new versions of the tool, you just get a more powerful environment. Well, building applications is harder today than ever before. You've got the existing code that you've got to worry about. You've got a requirement for many applications that they run 24 hours a day very reliably. And so you have the whole boundary between the developers and the operational environment and how information flows back and forth between them. There's a lot of existing code. Not that many applications are completely from scratch applications, and so connecting up to those things is very difficult. And the expectation for quality is very high. And then, of course, we've got the security challenge. People trying to find any exploitable thing in the application to either bring down the website or to propagate code that does malicious things. And so it's harder than ever to develop applications. And it's really up to the tool to help make sure these things aren't overwhelming and don't slow down the progress in terms of great applications. So Visual Studio is our answer to this. The commitment to have a tool, the commitment to work with developers, that's been key to all the successes Microsoft has had. In fact, today in the Wall Street Journal, it's talking about a presentation that Jay Allard is giving today at a game developer conference, saying, look, we just want to have the common tools between Xbox development and PC development. And that's all extensions to Visual Studio. Likewise for mobility and speech, it's extensions to Visual Studio. When we talk about connecting things, we're talking about not just the hardware connections, but connecting up to these different applications. And that's where web services comes in. Not that you have to build applications anew around web services, although we're very excited about that, but rather that you can even wrap existing applications and web services and have them participate in a integrated environment. And so a lot of our work has gone into those web services standards. A lot of our best people, a lot of cooperation with the relevant companies in the industry, and making sure those protocols are just like the internet protocols. That is, they are standard across the different systems. People will compete on whether they implement those in a low-cost, easy-to-develop-for way, but the actual base web services protocols will not be a point of differentiation. As we move Visual Studio forward, the next major version is called Visual Studio 2005. Some of you have probably heard that referred to as the would-be version. That's the code name. This is a very major release for us, and there's quite a few themes. Web services is certainly probably the top theme here. For the first time, making it really straightforward to write those web service applications. There's a lot in productivity that we've done. XML is finding its way in. Of course, that's related to web services as well, finding its way in as a tool that we're using and something that we're very rich in dealing with. For many common scenarios, we're making application development require half as much code. And in fact, in the history of programming development, it's really only advances that reduce the amount of code you need to write that are relevant. Reusing existing code, expressing things in a higher level way, that is the fundamental metric of advance that we have here, and this is a big part of that. We do integrate in support for connecting applications up to Office, connecting up to SQL Server, even the version that will come out about the same time as this, which again has a major theme of XML and web services. And here for the first time, really our device development, letting you target phones, PDA type devices. That's all built in. So this tool is central to our strategy. And in fact, you could say it's the third pillar going along with Windows and Office of the place where we put most of our innovation. There's a lot of language innovation here for Visual Basic users. One of their, probably the thing that they'll be the most excited about is we've brought back Edit and Continue, which has been highly demanded, let's say. We've also got a lot of extensions to the languages like generics, iterators, in C#, the partial types, new overloading. C++, we have templates that include the CLR capabilities. We have new libraries like STL.NET libraries. And there's a big feedback loop that takes place here that drives our priorities in terms of what we want. What you want to see in this tool and therefore what we build into it. Now, I mentioned quality and security as a very particular focus here. Certainly for Microsoft, that's been our top priority. Even more than the new features we're doing, the development of Longhorn, all the things about isolating networks, and so that malicious code can't spread and do bad things, that's been a huge effort. And the Visual Studio Group has participated in that. In fact, as part of our security effort, we've invented a lot of tools that look at code and examine it statically for certain type of flaws. And so we're using that ourselves. It's called Prefast. And we decided, wow, this has been so effective at finding flaws, we need to actually get it out for developers. So this Prefast capability will be built in to the Visual Studio product. And in fact, it's a very extensible thing. If there's patterns, development patterns that might be in error, you can put in recognition rules in those, and so extend it into your application domain to find an even broader set than we pre-program it to find. We have security capabilities like if you're developing an application that you don't want to force people to be in admin mode, you can ask the development tool to run a way that it'll error out anything that doesn't work in normal user mode. And there's a big push on for Windows applications to make sure they don't require administrative mode. There's the new managed APIs. There's new compiler switches to generate code that is immune from certain types of attacks. And so I'd say a substantial number of the features related very specifically to the quality and security initiatives. Now, another thing that is a very big deal for us is the idea of feedback from users. Software has changed from being something where the user gets the bits and they just use those bits in isolation to something where they get the bits, and as they use the software, any feedback or problems with that software get relayed to the software developer, and then updates of a certain type can be sent out on an ongoing basis. This paradigm is a major shift in terms of software. We saw it at first in terms of simple crash type reporting. Windows XP and many of our other products have this ability, if something hangs or crashes, that you optionally can send that report back to us. Well, in terms of analyzing problems in device drivers, problems in third-party applications and how they interact with the system, where the fragility is, having that database has been a phenomenal thing. We also now are extending it beyond that. Take, for example, help. Office 2003, when you type in a help string, if you're offline, of course, it goes to local help. But if you're connected, it goes up to our help information that we store on our servers. And so the help is way more extensive, and we can update it on an ongoing basis. And then we ask people to rate whether the help was what they wanted, if it solved the problem they were interested in. And so on a monthly basis, we're reviewing those ratings and reauthoring those help topics. And we're actually taking the boundary between the help world and the knowledge-based world, where people analyze technical problems, and really breaking down that boundary so that help queries can get you the latest information that are based on the version of the system and things that you might be interested in. And so connecting up applications to these reporting databases, that's something that we want to make easier and easier in the tool. We think every application, no matter where it runs, the developer of the application should have this type of information available to them. Corporate applications, mobile phone applications. It's a real philosophy that is pervading the platform and the tools, and that I think really strengthens how usable applications will be. Well, I've talked a lot about Visual Studio 2005. We're very excited about this, and I think the easiest way to understand some of the improvements is to see them in action. So let me now ask Jay Rocks to come out and give you a glimpse of some of the neat things that are in this next tool release.
Thanks, Bill. Good morning. I'm very excited to be here today to tell you about Visual Basic 2005 with its renewed focus on developer productivity. As we go through this demo, you'll see how we've made it easier to develop applications, debug them, and deploy them with a greater than 50% reduction in code in many common scenarios. We'll take care of the nitty-gritty in an enterprise scalable fashion and leave it to you to handle the real thinking about the application that you're building. So let's dive into this demo. The Consolidated Insurance Company is building a claims processing application that will be used by its adjusters in the back office. It'll need to display things like a photo of the accident, a description of what happened, and some information about the client. In true Julia Child fashion, I've pre-baked parts of the UI, and we're going to go in and finish it up. This Data Sources window is a new feature in Visual Basic 2005 that provides a holistic view on my application's data. If I come in and say Add New Data Source, you can see that I can add a connection to a database or a web service as I'd expect, but something that's new in 2005 is the ability to treat a business object, an object that you may already have written, as one of your data sources. We'll automatically examine the public properties of this object and infer a schema of it for you. So if I select Object, and I just take Consolidated's claim object, which is just all of the information that they have about a given claim, you can see that I've automatically generated a schema over here, and I can now choose how I want to display that in my application. By default, I get a data grid view, but I think for this app, it makes a little bit more sense to have a details view. So I can just drag that in, and it will automatically build the UI, including the navigation for you. Now, if you're binding against a database, we know where you're getting the data from. However, developers store objects in many different places, so you need to write just one line of code to tell us where to get that information. So I'll just go ahead and set the data source here. And what this getAllClaims method is returning is a generic collection of claim. Generics are a new feature in 2005 that makes it easier to build strongly typed methods and objects such as this collection. And Visual Basic is going to support both the creation and consumption of generics. So something that developers have told us is that they love the breadth and scope of the .NET framework, but that the size can sometimes be a little bit intimidating. And one of the ways that we're addressing this in 2005 is with the My object. Now you can think of My as being your speed dial into the .NET framework, with things like My Computer providing access to the file system or the printers, My Application providing versioning information. You can get user information, resources, settings, and a lot of things that developers use every day when building their applications. So what we're going to build here is a quick print preview, so I can say My Computer, Printers, and use the default printer. Now another way that developers write code, and I know I do this when I'm writing something I haven't done before, is go out to the web, find a snippet of code, copy and paste it into their application, modify it a little bit, and use it. How cool would it be if the IDE supported that for you automatically? Check this out. If I come in and I can say Insert Snippet, you automatically have access to a library of snippets for things like accessing data, working with forms, working with XML, and we're going to ship more than 500 of these snippets. More importantly, however, we've made it easy for you to define your own snippets that you can use in your application, share with people you work with, or share with a larger community of snippet authors out on the web. So Consolidated Insurance has defined a template that they use for their simple report. And I can come in here, and as you see, all of the areas that I need to change to have this make sense are highlighted in yellow, and I can simply tab between them. Okay, that's all the code we need to write for this application. But before we run it, let's take a step back and think about what we just did. With one drag and drop, one line of code, one use of my, and one code snippet, I've just completed what previously would have taken me dozens, if not hundreds of lines of code. And this just goes to the increased focus on developer productivity. So if we go ahead and run the application, as this comes up, you'll see that hydroplaning is a condition that can occasionally cause a driver to lose control of their vehicle. We'll give this just a second to finish building. Okay, if it was ready, we would have shipped it already. Okay, there we go. So you can also see that our dedicated Consolidated Insurance claims adjusters are on the scene before the accident has even finished happening, so that we can get all of the information that we need about this accident. The other thing you'll notice is this Windows Forms tool strip, which is a new control that makes it easier for me to build professional Office-like UI. So we'll come over here and run the print preview. Ooh, I hate it when that happens during one of Bill's demos. Okay, what this is a null reference exception. This exception assistant is actually a new feature in Visual Basic Whidbey that gives me detailed information on what the exception was that occurred and how I go about fixing it. So what I need to do is just come up here and assign it a value. And I'll just take the current value from my claim data connector, drag the cursor back up, and for any of you who just missed that, I just edited running code. Ladies and gentlemen, Edit and Continue, the most frequently requested feature in Visual Basic, is back in 2005. Okay, so now we've finished writing the application, and our next challenge is to actually go deploy that application. We made tremendous steps in this direction in 2002 when we introduced Xcopy deployment and solved the problem of DLL hell. We're taking this one step further in 2005 with Click Once, which will automatically deploy not only my application, but also its prerequisites, with the simplicity of web deployment, yet the richness of client deployment. So I can come in here, I say publish, and I can choose where to publish. In this case, I'll publish it to the Consolidated Insurance extranet, make it available online and offline, and Click Once is going to automatically build a deployment page for me that will deploy not only the consolidated application, but also any of its prerequisites, such as the .NET framework. Now, we've deployed over 80 million copies of the framework, but this is a great way for ISVs and other software providers to ensure that the framework and any other prerequisites are available on their customer's machine. So with one click, I can deploy the application, verify the requirements, and install the application and run it on my users' machines. So what have we seen in this quick demo? We've seen how we've made it easier to develop applications with my and IntelliSense code snippets, to debug those applications with the exception assistant and the oft-requested and now returned Edit and Continue, and then to deploy those applications using Click Once. And all of this with more than a 50% reduction in code in many common scenarios. This is not only the most powerful version of Visual Basic ever, it's also the most productive. You'll be getting copies of this. I'd encourage you to install it, try it out. You're going to love it. Thank you very much.
We're moving towards a first half 2005 release of the Visual Studio product. And as we move towards that, we're increasing the number of resources that go with it, the add-on things, the community outreach that's part of this. A new element to this is that we'll have releases on an ongoing basis. And in fact, here tomorrow, you'll have the latest release that will be available to all of you of Visual Studio. And we really want you to both try it out and give us your feedback, so as we move to get this thing final, it'll have exactly what you're interested in. Well, let's focus a little bit on the mobile space. The mobile space is one of the most exciting new arenas for applications. When people develop applications today, they want to have access on a mobile device for some of the information coming out of that application. And initially, the development environment for mobile applications was very, very different from classic server or PC type applications. We want to make sure that not only can these applications be rich, but that they fit in with the code that's running in the other environments. In fact, we'd like to make it just trivial to say, okay, let's target some of the output of this application to these devices. Now, this is very tricky because there are way more variety on these devices than there are on the personal computer. With the PC, we've abstracted a lot of things so that applications don't have to think about keyboards or screen resolution nearly as much as they typically had to do on the mobile devices. And yet, the mobile devices are getting to be so popular that people want to overcome that. The web service focus that I talked about earlier is applicable in this space as well. In fact, we had a major announcement last year with Vodafone about creating an association of people to really define exactly what web service calls would look like for the mobile space. Location information, authentication information, billing information. In fact, we want those web services calls where it's appropriate to be the same on all different device environments. We ourselves are participating in providing web services for mobile devices with a thing we call the Map Point Location Server. This came out last week in its final version, and it lets people, companies who have mobile workers, actually be able to take the GPS data and send that out to a web service, and we give them a map and distances and all the type of geographic information that they might be interested in. And we're working with a lot of the mobile providers so that those APIs work through their devices. For example, Sprint and Bell Mobility are saying to their customers, if you have those mobile devices, then this kind of mapping information can be tracked very straightforward and fed into other applications. So the location capability is coming into this mobile environment. The pocket devices, phone and PDA, really the trend is to have the best of both together. The phone is no longer just a voice-only device. More and more it has that rich color screen. The PDA is no longer a disconnected device. More and more it's got the ability to make calls and connect up to wireless data networks. In many cases, that will be both the wide area data networks, 2.5G or 3G networks, but also increasingly you'll have Wi-Fi connectivity built into the device as well. And so it'll be able to connect up to whichever network is available, whichever one provides the best bandwidth and economics there. And so the boundaries of what these devices look like is not, they're not as separate as they used to be. In fact, there's phenomenal innovation in this as we see this growth. Now, a lot of the excitement here is not just in the United States. In fact, some of the leading trends And these devices take place in Europe and Asia. And that's where we see a very strong demand from developers to make it easy to do very, very rich applications. We are just one of the software platform providers, of course. There's companies like Nokia and Palm and others building software for these devices. But we've, in this area as well, had a very high level of investment and have a lot of momentum. We've got 37 different people building hardware, 50 different operators. In the Pocket PC space, we have, by many measures, the largest share. The smartphone space, a growing share, and particularly if you take the enterprise market, that's where we are actually a leader already, where people want corporate applications. The kind of development tools, manageability, alignment with the PC platform has allowed us to lead in that space, which is actually, for many of you, the greatest opportunity space that's out there. There's a lot of industry initiatives bringing the protocols and web service approaches to be not only common within the mobile industry, but common to the non-mobile world as well. And so we're members in Open Mobile Alliance, GSM Association. Recently there was an announcement between ourselves and some other key companies about having a domain name that will let you know that a site is optimized for the mobile experience, and yet having that site connect up through all the normal internet standards. So we're very excited about that. We have gotten quite a bit of application development going on, but those developers have told us some things they want to see to make it even easier to build these applications. Now we update our mobile platform every year, and so the mobile platform for this year is the 2003 platform. We're actually doing an intermediate release now that we call second edition that has some additional capabilities. This has to do with getting the screen capabilities, very rich, simple screen capabilities, including changing the orientation, supporting high resolution, getting those things to be a standard. So VGA type capability, the QVGA type thing. So we'll have more device innovation. We'll have different form factors. In fact, a good example of a device that's using these capabilities is the this Motorola MPX. Let me just go over and get this. Unplug it. Wow, that's plugged in. So one way you can use this is just flip it up and use it like a phone. And you can see you've got a keyboard here that's got the typical numeric capability. And you can see the orientation, and it makes sense for that. But the way Motorola's designed this, you can also open it up this way. And of course you see the software automatically can tell which orientation you're using the screen in. And so now you have essentially a full keyboard, small keyboard, for entering messages and interacting with the applications. And so this is a device that, is it a smartphone? Is it a classic type phone? Well, it really blurs the boundaries because it provides a lot of the benefits of both types of devices. So we're excited to see this Motorola breakthrough, and we've done a lot of special software work to make sure that we take full advantage of that. In terms of new things for developers, there's a new compact framework, a lot richer. The managed APIs are now letting people get at telephony, there's camera APIs, there's sync APIs, the location APIs. Really having just high-level calls that let you get at everything that's available there. Another big focus for us is this mobile to market, making it easy for people to find applications, and now connecting that up to a billing platform as well, so we can make it so that people can sell those applications as well. So just to give you a sense of where we're going with smartphone and how this mobile to market change will create new opportunities, I'd like to ask Ori Amiga to come up and give us a look at smartphone innovation. Welcome.
Thanks, Bill. So Visual Studio.NET 2003 already has great support for building managed code applications targeting the Windows mobile platform today. And with the .NET Compact Framework already being in ROM on every single Pocket PC and Smartphone 2003 device, there's really never been a more exciting time to be a mobile developer. But what I'd like to show you today is some of the remarkable innovation we've been doing on the tools, on the platform, and our mobile to market program to really make it easy for developers, easier than ever, to build, deploy, and even sell your applications. So let's go ahead and take a look at my quite active blog site. And what I thought we'd do today is jazz it up a little bit, build a mobile blogging client for my smartphone from scratch so we can create live blogging entries here at MDC. In Visual Studio 2005, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. We'll do this in Visual Basic and call it My MDC Blogger. We're going to target the smartphone platform and leverage some of the rich Windows Mobile APIs for camera, location, and even web services to build this application. Notice the gorgeous designer we have in the IDE, giving you the form factor that you're going to be targeting. We have great customizable skin support and the exact same beautiful design experience you expect on the desktop. Let's go ahead and title our form. We'll call it My MDC Blogger again. Notice I have a device control toolbox that has all the relevant controls for the platform I'm targeting. We'll drag a picture box, which will bind to the camera in a moment. I can add a label, which is where we'll put the location information about where this photo was taken. We can label it My Location. I can use the menu editor to create smartphone menus in the designer. We'll make a Blog It menu. We can make a photo menu. And we're almost done. Let's go ahead and wire these up. Get ourselves a little more real estate here. Now, I can type in the 3 lines of code it takes to get an object, an image from the camera object, but instead, let's use our beautiful VB snippets feature and insert a capture photo snippet. I can also insert a snippet to get location. Notice 2 lines of code to get an image from the camera, put it in the picture box, 1 line of code to get a location sensor, 1 line of code to get an address report. The last thing we'll do is put this information up on the screen. And that's it. We're almost done. Finally, let's go ahead and wire up the Blog It menu. I've gone ahead and created earlier a wrapper component that uses web services to talk to my blog server. And so let's go ahead and use that. The add entry method. Call it My MDC Blog. And we can say I am blogging from and add our current location. And we also want, let's get picture box 1.text. There we go. Let's go ahead and hit build. Take a look at our output. Build succeeded. So what you've just seen, in less than 3 minutes, we've built a smartphone application from scratch, added a couple of controls using rich Windows Mobile APIs, and built it. Now, many of you know that building your application is only half the battle. And the real challenges out there around packaging and even selling your application. So let's take a look at some of the future investments we're making to simplify an ISP's life and really help you sell your application through multiple channels. What we have here is a preview of a future version of our Windows Mobile Developer Portal. Through our Mobile to Market program, an ISP will be able to submit their application into a hosting service and have it automatically be available through many of our distribution partners, such as AT&T Wireless, for example, or Hendango, Cellmania, or any other mobile operator, distributor, or OEM. In the submission form, I can title my application, give it a description, indicate which platforms I'm targeting, even set its retail price. In our case, I think $9 is a bit high for 2 minutes worth of work, but that's probably okay. I can go ahead and browse and find the application I want to upload to the site. In this case, a CAD file that I've pre-created with Visual Studio that has our application in it. When I click the Submit button, this application gets submitted into our backend service, and on the other side of this transaction sits a mobile operator, such as AT&T Wireless in our example, and can make a decision on which applications they want to make available on their network and to their end customers. Now, once we get a submission confirmation, we can go ahead and switch over to our device. There it is. And we'll take look at the end user experience of how you get this app onto your smartphone. On my smartphone, when you go ahead and launch the mobile catalog, notice from the branding on the device, we've been working closely with AT&T on this, an end user can go to their top downloads and initially see a cached version of all the applications available on the handset, so they don't have to continuously go up and hit the website. When I hit refresh, we're going to make a secure web service call and download any updated content that may be available. Notice my MDC blogger is now on the site, and I can get some additional information such as the size and the cost. In one step, I can download and purchase this application. And the beautiful thing here is that as an ISV, you can sit back, relax, and wait for the checks to show up in the mail, as we've been working very closely with our partners to deliver an end-to-end solution. Our CAD file has been installed. We can now go back to our start menu and launch our application and create my first blog entry. I'm going ahead and click the photo button. The camera is going to come up. We'll take a photo of this great car I have on stage. And we'll give it a second or two. We'll get location updated from the location sensor. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the Blog It button. While we wait for the blogging entry to get submitted to my site, let's switch over and take a look at our Pocket PC, which has a reminder about the Keynote. Interesting. Huh. Well, I guess we won't be taking a look at our Pocket PC since it's decided to remind me that I'm in the Keynote. But instead, what I'll tell you about is some of the great support we've added in Visual Studio 2005 to help you build applications which target multiple form factors available through the new Windows mobile devices. We've made it easy for you to build a single application that runs on smartphone and Pocket PC, single package that can deploy and run on both, an application that can automatically adapt from landscape to portrait mode into VGA resolutions, etc. All from the IDE and all with very little amount of code required. Looking back at my blog site, hit refresh, and here's the blogging entry that came from my smartphone with our image and the location from the device. Thanks. So what you've seen today is that from scratch we were able to build a new smartphone application in Visual Studio 2005, use Visual Basic and the rich Windows Mobile Client APIs to do location, camera, photo capture, as well as web service calls, use mobile to market, package, sell, and distribute our application to our client, download it, install it, purchase it, and even use it all in under 10 minutes. Thanks very much.
Well, let's talk about speech. Speech has been a holy grail for a long time in computer interaction. Obviously, speech would be immensely beneficial to have as one of the ways of interacting with a computer. And this is a problem that very smart people have been working on for decades. And in fact, there has been substantial progress. The requirements in terms of the low error rate are very demanding. Humans are used to other humans who are extremely good at recognizing speech. In fact, as we've worked on these problems, our respect for how human recognition gets done has simply gone up and up. But there is a progression here of lower and lower error rates. What you're seeing is from 1993 out, our projection into the future, what the machine error rate will look like. And of course, the human error rate is way down there, a very, very low error rate. There are two things that humans are particularly good at compared to computers. One is understanding the context, that is, knowing if there's any ambiguity by knowing who they're speaking to, about what, how to resolve that ambiguity, and doing that just subconsciously. And the second is being able to eliminate noise. If you compare computers to humans in a noise-free environment, the difference is much smaller than this. And so a lot of the advances have to do with being smarter about context and doing a better job with noise elimination. And so together, bringing all the different advances together, including the hardware capabilities that are helpful here, we're bringing the machine error rate down and bringing that into the mainstream. Now, one thing that this is showing the toughest problem of all, which is general dictation, where you can use an extremely large vocabulary. Already today, if the vocabulary is limited to a particular domain, asking about directions or directory or weather or travel flights, the error rates are very, very low. And so the barrier there has actually been the difficulty of creating applications, describing what the domain is and connecting it up with that computer code. And the speech server that we're announcing and shipping this week is about eliminating that problem, making it easy to write server-based voice recognition for domain-specific grammars, and making the extra effort to do that on top of building a classic application very, very modest. Again, the philosophy is the same tool, Visual Studio, the same platform environment, the .NET environment that we're bringing there. Now, Microsoft is very committed to speech. We see this as something that over the rest of this decade will simply become more and more mainstream. The mobile phone, you've seen all these different keyboards that try to make it easy to put information in. Yeah, those will exist, but speech is preferable when it can be recognized. Even on the PC itself, a combination of keyboard, pointing device, and speech will be part of the interaction technique there. We also believe that you can't just have the world of speech, synthesis, and interaction in the world of the keyboard screen. You want to bring these together so that even if your input is speech, that the output can often be on the screen. So for example, if you want to look at your voicemails, you shouldn't just have to listen to audio. You should have the screen show you that menu and all the information, and you can easily select that. And so the screen and speech should not be separate worlds. And many of the architectures for dealing with speech applications acted like it was separate from screen-based interaction. Speech runtimes have to be very low cost. It's our traditional approach to take a high volume, low cost approach to these things. And we've got to have examples of where the speech applications are doing some super things. We do have a standard called SALT that describes how to embed grammar and speech type information into normal XML expressions. The model here is this web-based .NET architecture, the Visual Studio environment, and very simple integration there. So this is a diagram on top of our standard Windows server. You run this speech server called Speech Server 2004 because it's just coming out now. And that has the application logic and the speech processing, and then it can connect you through general telephony or to the web as well. And the data is flowing back and forth to this ASP.NET application. Making the economics of this very, very inexpensive has been a critical thing to us. And working with partners who do the telephony connection piece has been very, very important as well. And so over the last 9 months, we've had betas of this out, gotten a lot of feedback. In fact, I think the excitement level and the progress people have made building applications with this beta has been as strong as any new beta product I've ever seen. Speech really is something people believe in. They've seen it, a lot of optimism, so they're wondering when it comes to the mainstream. But now we're saying for a certain class of applications, it is in the mainstream with this software release. So to give you a look at this, and including how the development has been made pretty simple, I'd like to ask Richard Irving, a program manager in our speech group, to come up and show you Speech Server.
Thank you. All right, we've seen some great stuff so far. I think we saved the best for last. I'm going to show you how to leverage Visual Studio.NET and your web development skills to speech-enable ASP.NET applications using Microsoft Speech Server 2004. So the scenario that we saw earlier on was an internal application that Consolidated Insurance has deployed for its claims adjusters to file and track claims on behalf of their customers. Well, of course, Consolidated Insurance also has a customer self-service website to allow the customer a certain set of functionality. So we're going to take a look at that application before we dive deep into the code. And there we go. So here we have the Consolidated Insurance Customer Self-Service website. I'm going to go ahead and type in my claim information so that I can log on to the site and check the status of the claim that Jay was working on earlier. Now I can see that the claim has been processed. The claims adjuster has updated with some information on what the damage is, and they've actually assessed a value of $2,400. Now, because they've assessed that value, I can take action on this claim directly from this website. I can choose to have a check sent to me, or I can choose to get it repaired. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get it repaired, and when I do that, I get a map and listing of repair centers within a given search radius. And of course, I can change the search radius from 5, 10, 20 miles. And the list will update dynamically. And then I can choose which repair center I want to take my car to. So this is all really standard stuff, right? I mean, you guys have built this stuff before. You've used this stuff before. You know how to do this. Well, Consolidated Insurance wants to extend the reach of this application to the most pervasive device in the world, the telephone, using speech technology and Microsoft Speech Server 2004. And I'm going to do that right now. We're going to start in VisualStudio.net. This is a development environment you guys have all come to know and love over the last few years. And I'm looking at the Consolidated Insurance web project right now. I'm on the status page. I can see basically the design time view of exactly what we just saw through the web browser. I've got my standard ASP.NET controls in my web control toolbox there. I've got some controls already on the page, and I've got some data sources, right? My data sources of available repair centers and the claim data that I'm binding to this form. Now, with Microsoft Speech Server 2004, you get a set of tools that are seamlessly integrated with VisualStudio.net that make it very, very easy to speech enable your ASP.NET applications. The first thing that I notice when I have it installed is the Speech Web Control Toolbox. And this is really neat. It gives you a set of standard ASP.NET controls, but to manage the speech interaction in the application. These controls work and behave and are configured the exact same way that you're used to with the standard ASP.NET controls, but of course they're doing speech. Now I want to start building out this the speech enablement portions of this application. And of course I've got a couple of things on the page already. So before we dive into it, let's just review real quick what's on the page. I have here a call management control, which is going to pick up the line and start executing the application when it detects an incoming call. I'm going to say hi, greet the user, get their logon information, look up the claim, read them back the same sort of detailed information that I got on that website, and then I'm going to ask them if they want to have a check cut or if they want to get the car repaired. Now, if they want to get it repaired, I need to give them that exact same list of available repair centers, except over the phone using speech. Now, to do this, there are three concepts that I need to get familiar with, because over the phone, obviously, there is no graphical interface. So there's three concepts that I need to get used to. One is the dialogue, or the conversation that the system has with the user. This is your presentation logic, right? That's how you think of it today. That's how you can keep thinking about it with building a speech application. The next thing, in that conversation, the system is going to be asking questions of the user. It's going to be saying things to the user. These things are called prompts. And of course, I need to define a list of things the user can say, constrain it just a little bit, and we call that grammar. Now, one of the really neat things, talking about the speech web controls, one of the really neat controls we provide is this data table navigator control. And this data table navigator control, when bound to a data source, will automatically generate all elements of that conversation based on the data I've bound it to. So I'm going to go ahead and use this data table navigator control to present the user with the list of available repair centers. And I'm going to customize it in a couple of ways. The first way I'm going to customize it is to bind it to the repair center data source that you saw on my web form. And I'm going to extract these two columns, the name of the business, the basic coordinates, so that I can send it off to the map point location server and calculate the distance, calculate the available repair centers, so that I can provide relevant information to the user. Now, technically, once I do this and I specify a place to store the user's selection, I'm done. I don't actually have to go any further. I can hit apply, dismiss this dialog, run it right now, and it will work. But I really want to show you these tools, so I'm going to go out on the edge here, and I'm going to start customizing a couple more things. I'm going to customize what the user can say to the application. Now, again, we automatically generate these commands, or what the user can say, based on the data that we're bound to. But I can also customize it. So I am going to customize the words that the user can say to indicate their selection in a list. And I'm just going to set this up here by specifying a path and a rule and a grammar that we'll customize in just a second. I just want to prepare the control for this. And then the last thing I'm going to do to the control is provide a really natural sounding voice to this application. And again, I'm just setting this up, and I'm going to do the full customization in just a second. So there, we're done. Again, I can build, I can run this right now, and it's going to sound great, but we want it to sound even better, and I want to show you the rest of these tools. So I'm going to customize the commands that the user can say to the application, and I do this through the grammar editor. This is a really cool, really sexy tool that allows you to design the flow and the layout of the user's input into the application. And I can see here I already have a couple of items in this list. The user can say OK, yes, or select to indicate their selection. But I'm going to go ahead and add another phrase, because I think it's most natural for a user to say, when they're in the middle of a list, to say that one to indicate their selection. So I'm going to add that to the list, and that's all I needed to do. The things that the user can say, the input to the application is now fully customized. I'm going to hit save, and I'm done, and I'll overwrite that. And so I'm done with that. Now the last thing that I want to do is provide a really natural sounding voice to the application. You guys have heard the synthetic voices before, text-to-speech, all that sort of stuff, and I can use that. Right? I can use that in my application, and that's functional. But I want a really natural sounding voice, and I can do that with Microsoft Speech Server through a tool called the Prompt Editor. And this allows me to insert recorded files or recorded sounds that I might have a professional voice talent recording in a studio, import them into this, and then I can dynamically mix and match these sounds at runtime to provide the most relevant prompt to the user. So I'm going to go ahead and import a couple of WAV files associated with that list of available repair centers. And let's see how that sounds.
Contoso Auto Service is 6 miles from you.
Sounds great. That sounds awesome. That is the exact experience that I want to give users in this application. I want them to hear her voice. I want them to be guided through this application. And that's how I do it. Now, I can go ahead and build this. And I have a couple of options available to me. I could just hit run in VisualStudio.net, and what I get with Microsoft Speech Server is a simulation environment to run on my developer workstations that simulates what it would be like to run this application on the server. So I don't need any additional software or any additional hardware to license on my developer workstations. I can just hit run.
Or this is also an ASP.NET application, so I benefit from Xcopy deployment. I can just copy this out to my web server and bam, it's deployed. I can use it. But I want to give you guys the full Microsoft Speech Server experience. So I'm going to go ahead and make a call to a server that we have running to this very application, and let's see what happens.
Good morning, and welcome to the Consolidated Insurance Automated Claims Processing Center. First, I'll need to get your claim number. If you don't know it, please say help. Otherwise, please speak or type the number now.
1M24R.
Great. I heard 1M24R. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, please wait while I look up your claim. Thanks for waiting. Your claim is for a total of $2,400. Please say check to receive a check for this amount, or say repair, and I'll help you find an appropriate service center.
I would like to get it repaired.
Okay, I can help you find the closest service center. Do you want me to search within 5, 10, or 20 miles of the address on your policy?
10 miles.
Okay, I've found 3 centers within 10 miles. Contoso Auto Service is 6 miles from you. Northwind Import Cars is 2 miles from you.
That one.
Got it. Northwind Import Cars. I have sent the details to the email address we have on file. Can I help you with anything else?
No.
Thanks for calling Consolidated Insurance. Goodbye.
Thank you. All right, so that sounded pretty good. Thank you. I think it's absolutely awesome as well. So now remember, I speech enabled an existing ASP.NET application. This is fully integrated, right? So I should be able to log back on to the app, right, and see if maybe the status has changed with what I did over the phone. So I'll log back on, and there we go. The car is in repair, as indicated by my conversation with the application. My options are disabled, and once it's done being repaired, I'll probably be able to log back on, check on the status again, and anything else that Consolidated Insurance wants to allow their customers to do. So hopefully what I've been able to show you here is how you can leverage your existing skill set, your existing infrastructure investments, to extend the reach of your applications to 2.2 billion phones. 2.2 billion phones using speech technology and Microsoft Speech Server 2004. Thank you.
There's a huge range of different scenarios we think that this new speech capability will be used for. Range from healthcare, we saw insurance, customer relationship management, even the internally at Microsoft, when somebody wants to call up and get directory information, we now have the speech server being used for that with a very high degree of accuracy. One application that was very exciting to me that was done on the beta was done by the New York City Department of Education. This is the largest school system in the U.S., over 1 million kids going to school and a $6 billion budget. They have a lot of information, 1,200 schools, 80,000 teachers, and they want to make it easy for parents to know what's going on. Things like, did the kid go to school? What kind of grades did he get? And they really can't afford for transportation or scheduling or other information to have lots of people sitting there manning some call center answering these questions. You know, schedules change. There's things parents might want to know about. So they built a web application, and that was a .NET application, very straightforward and very successful. But it was only accessible to families that had computers with internet access. And so they came to us and a key partner we have called Intervoice and said, could we take this application and extend it out so that people could dial in on the phone? And this is because the majority of parents for this particular school district did not have computer access. And so between Microsoft and Intervoice, we took the application, and it was a very straightforward thing to do this extension. And so now this is up and running in the New York City School District. So you wouldn't think of them as the cutting-edge, state-of-the-art customer. And of course, they had to do it with tight budget constraints. And yet, with the new platform, that all became practical. We've got about 1,000 applications that have been written as part of the beta test. And that's been part of the refinement capability. And so I think we can really say now that speech is starting to move into the mainstream. Kai-Fu Lee, who runs our group doing this work, of course, will be giving a keynote across the street at 11, and that really will get into more depth and give you a sense of why we're so excited about this. Well, let me just say briefly where we go from here. We talked about Visual Studio, mobility and speech, and what's here in the near term. We don't see ourselves backing off in terms of our large-scale R&D investments in these areas. We think they're all key areas. Of course, there'll be a lot of feedback on the things that we're doing through our community process that will help guide us. But in Visual Studio, we see that the XML data model, there's a lot more that can be done. User interface, rich animation, a lot more that can be done. Mobility, getting these media experiences in there. Dealing with the device form factor so that the whole range between the phone and the mobile PC, we can share code across those. The networks, of course, are giving us new opportunities, having data and voice connections simultaneously. That's very key if you want to be interacting with speech and having things come up on the screen. In speech itself, well, of course, the idea is to not only do server-based speech, but to bring our speech recognition for larger and larger vocabulary sets down onto the phone itself and onto the PC itself. We will have a speech dictation application. In fact, just last year, as we were making progress on this, when one of our speech researchers was over in China, where the keyboard is relatively more difficult to use, there was proposed that there'd be a runoff between the keyboard use and speech recognition. And so they got one of the best trained typists in the country, and the speech recognition was better in terms of getting a full accuracy, rate of entry type measurement versus the keyboard. And so, that's just a milestone. But eventually we'll think of the PC and the phone as devices that we can talk to, and talk to not just within a limited domain, but talk to and very broadly, even say, dictating documents of any type. A lot of investment to be made there. We've been investing in this area for over a decade before we get the problem completely solved. I'm sure that's another decades of work, but lots of milestones that will let you take those improvements and build applications around them. So in conclusion, the seamless theme describes a lot of what we're doing, describes the importance of software in terms of getting things to work together. The idea of software, talking to software through web services, and our commitment to that as an industry standard. I hope that's coming through in everything we're doing, from our initial work around XML to the protocol standards that we're making available, to the interoperability testing with all the other vendors. The mobile space, a very important space, one that we're quite committed to and seeing some great results. These natural user interfaces, of course, we've always dreamed about those, and great to see that it's becoming real. And all of this, in summary, I think, creates opportunities for developers. And so I'll be very excited to see what each of you can do, taking the new tools and new platforms and building great applications. Thank you.